Welcome back to the Acceptance Project podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bryan Gross. Today, I want to start with a simple question, but don't let the word simple fool you, because this one has a way of sticking with you long after it's asked. If you had to give someone just one rule for good mental health, what would it be? Not a long list, not something polished or perfect, just one truth you've earned from living your life. The kind of truth that probably showed up after a hard day, a long night, or maybe it was a moment where life didn't just tap you on the shoulder, it made sure you were paying attention. So I asked that question to so many of you, and what came back wasn't just advice, it was honesty, it was experience, it was real life showing up without filters. Some of you gave me a sentence that hit like a lightning bolt. Others gave me closer to a playbook for getting through the hard days. And as I read every message, I realized something pretty incredible. Even though we're all walking different paths, we keep discovering the same kinds of truth. So today, we're going to slow things down, lean into those shared lessons, and maybe we'll find something in them that feels like it was meant just for you. There's something about the word rules that makes people tense up a little, like there's going to be a test at the end and nobody studied. But here's the truth. There are no official rules for mental health. No handbook waiting for you when you become an adult. No checklist sitting on your kitchen counter next to last night's leftovers that says, follow this and everything will be fine. But what we do have is something better. We have lived experience. We have stories. We have those moments where life hit a little harder than expected and we had to figure something out just to keep going. And from those moments, we build our own rules, quietly, personally, and honestly. So when I asked all of you for your one rule, what came back wasn't answers, it was a chorus. Different voices, different stories, different lives, all somehow pointing in the same direction. And as I read through every message, something started to emerge. It was a pattern, not identical words, not identical lives, but a shared rhythm. We're tired of running ourselves into the ground. We're learning, sometimes the hard way, how to be kinder to ourselves. And when we are realizing that taking care of our mental health is not selfish, it's necessary, it's how we keep going. So let me walk you through 3 of the biggest themes that showed up again and again in your own words. If there was one theme that didn't just show up but made itself known, it was this: give yourself permission. Tanya Moore reminded us not to feel guilty for saying no and to prioritize ourselves. And that sounds simple until you try it, and suddenly it feels like you're letting everyone down. Ashley Kayes echoed that truth was something that hits home. It's okay to be selfish in a healthy way, not selfish in a way that pushes people away, but selfish in a way that keeps you from disappearing. Every time I fly, I find my seat, I get buckled in, and then I sit there and listen to the flight attendant's directions on what to do in case of an emergency. And one of the things they always say is that if the oxygen mask should come down, put your mask on first before you help the person next to you. That's kind of what this feels like today. So that oxygen mask idea we hear on planes suddenly feels a lot less like travel advice and a lot more like survival. Because George Morris, coming from a place of caring for others as an oncology nurse, said it plainly: you cannot keep putting yourself last and expect to have anything left to give. And then there's my friend Sandy Parsons. She shared something that felt real and honest, showing up day after day in the hospital, running on empty, until she realized that stepping away for even a few hours wasn't abandoning someone, it was saving herself. That takes courage, the kind of courage that doesn't get noticed, but changes everything. Because a lot of us were taught that taking time for ourselves meant we were letting someone else down. But what if the real risk isn't stepping away? What if the real risk is never stopping at all? And in the middle of all that, Arthur Taylor reminds us of something we forget when life gets heavy. We are not meant to do this alone. We need to build relationships that support our love, our happiness, and our sense of connection. Permission isn't just about stepping back, it's also about letting people step in. And then, of course, the next theme that seemed to walk right into the room and pull up a chair next to my desk as I was reading everyone's responses was awareness. It sat there and looked at me as if to say, You knew I was going to show up. At Bridging Success, we talk about awareness all the time. Being aware of ourselves, our surroundings, of others, and perhaps most importantly, being aware of our feelings. Do you remember my friend Melody West from the episode where grief meets possibility? If not, go back and listen to it again. You're going to learn something new each time, and here's something you need to hear. Melody summed up her rule for good mental health in three simple words that might be the most powerful in this entire conversation. Feel your feelings. Simple, but profound. Don't hide them. Don't dismiss them. Don't even try to change them. Just sit with them and feel them. Now, my friend Tiffany Azanaro built on that with a reminder we all need. Acknowledge how you are feeling, whatever that feeling may be. Not just the good ones, not just the ones that make sense, but all of it. Because feelings don't disappear when we ignore them. They wait, they build, and eventually they demand to be heard. Now, my friend Pam Baker and Maria Olson came roaring in about something that hits a little deeper. Give yourself the same love and grace you so easily give to others. Think about that for a moment. The patience you offer your friends, the understanding you give to people you care about. Now imagine turning even a small part of that toward yourself. Most of us would never say the hateful, horrible things we say to ourselves to others. Why is it we offer so much kindness and grace to others, but hold ourselves so much more accountable and treat ourselves horribly when we don't achieve or perform the way we think is best for us? Be patient. Be kind to yourself when you're going through something. Know that it's a season, not a life sentence. And be honest with people who care about you. Let them know how you're doing and what you need. Now, my neighbor, Victoria Hudson, offered a kind of clarity that doesn't just inform you, it frees you. It's the quiet but powerful understanding of the difference between accountability and over-responsibility. Knowing what is truly yours to carry and what was never meant for your hands in the first place. Because somewhere along the way, many of us picked up weight that was never ours and held on to it like it defined us. We carried it carefully, protected it, even valued it, all while it slowly wore us down. And the moment you realize you can set it down is not just relief, it's the beginning of reclaiming your strength. And then Paul Wittig offered a perspective that lingers long after you hear it. The same rain that ruins someone's picnic is helping someone else's garden grow. And when you finally sit with that, you realize it's not just about the rain, it's about the lens you're looking through. Because life doesn't always change the conditions, but it constantly invites us to change the meaning we assign to them. The moment that feels like an inconvenience, a setback, or even a disappointment might be quietly doing work we cannot yet see. Growth rarely announces itself with perfect timing. Sometimes it shows up disguised as delay, discomfort, or even disruption. We tend to label things quickly. Good day, lucky break, terrible timing. But what if some of the moments we rush to resist are the very ones creating space for something better to take root? What if the storm you're trying to outrun is the same one preparing you for what's next? Perspective does not ignore pain or pretend everything is easy. It simply asks a different question. Instead of, why is this happening to me? It whispers, what might this be doing for me? And in that shift, something powerful happens. The rain is still falling, but now it carries possibility. Susan Kayes brought it back to something steady and real. Knowing when you've been pushing past your limits and having the courage to ease up, not as defeat, but as wisdom, and learning to accept outcomes, not because you stop caring, but because you understand that not everything is yours to force into place. That kind of awareness does not arrive with applause or announcement. It shows up quietly, like a shift you feel before you can fully name it. But once it's there, it changes everything. You stop fighting every current. You stop measuring your worth by how hard you push. And instead, you begin to move through life with a sense of steadiness that is not loud, but deeply powerful. Picture this. You care about someone deeply. You see them struggling, maybe making the same choices over and over, maybe carrying pain they cannot quite name. And because you care, you step in. You listen, you advise, you show up again and again. You become the late night call, the steady voice, the one trying to hold it all together when they feel like they're falling apart. At first, it feels like love in action. Like if you just say the right thing, do the right thing, stay long enough, you can help fix it. So you lean in harder. You offer more. You try to carry a little more of the weight for them. But slowly, something shifts. Conversations start to repeat. The same pain, the same patterns, the same outcomes, and you begin to feel it, not just emotionally, but physically. The heaviness, the exhaustion, the quiet realization that no matter how much you give, you cannot do the work for them. And then comes the moment that Susan Caves was pointing to. Not loud, not dramatic, just honest. You sit with them, maybe in a conversation that feels familiar, and instead of jumping in to fix it, you say something different. You say, I care about you, and I'm here for you, but I can't carry this for you. I think I need to step back a little because the way we're doing this right now isn't helping either of us. That moment is not rejection. It's not giving up. It's clarity. It's recognizing the line between caring for someone and losing yourself trying to save them. And what follows is a different kind of presence, one that is still rooted in care, but no longer driven by the need to fix. You are still there, but you are standing beside them, not holding them up. That is the shift. Not walking away, but stepping back enough to protect your own well being while allowing them the space to face what is theirs to face. Now, if permission opens the door and awareness shows you where you are, this is where you take action. Slow down and take care. Kevin Banner reminded us not to stress over what we can't control. And on the surface, that sounds like one of those lines you nod at and move on from, but then you start paying attention to your day and it becomes almost uncomfortable how often we try to control everything. We try to control how people respond to us, how conversations go, how quickly things happen, how others feel, how outcomes unfold. We replay moments in our minds like we're editors of a film that has already been released, convinced that if we just tweak one line or one reaction, the ending will somehow change. We grip tightly to things that were never meant to be held that way. And the cost of that is quiet but heavy. It shows up as tension in your shoulders, as restless thoughts at night, as that constant hum of what if and if only. It tricks you into believing that stress is the price of caring, when in reality it's often the result of trying to control what was never yours to manage in the first place. Letting go of that control does not mean you stop caring. It means you start choosing where your energy actually has impact. You focus on your effort, your response, your presence, the things you can shape, and you begin to loosen your grip on everything else. Because here's the truth that sneaks up on you. The more you try to control everything, the less peace you actually have. But the moment you start releasing what is not yours, even just a little, you create space, space to breathe, space to think clearly, space to show up in a way that is grounded instead of reactive. And that shift is not loud or dramatic. It is a quiet exhale you did not realize you were holding. Brandon Byers added something we all need to hear. Not everything is an emergency, even when it feels like it. And that line hits a little deeper when you realize how convincing that feeling can be. Your phone buzzes and suddenly it feels like it has to be answered now. An email comes in and it feels like it needs a response immediately. A problem shows up and your mind races ahead, treating it like a 5-alarm fire when it might just be a flicker that needs a little attention, not a full response. We've been conditioned into urgency, trained to believe that fast equals responsible, that immediate equals caring, that constant availability equals value. And over time, that creates a kind of internal pressure where everything starts to feel important, everything starts to feel time sensitive, and everything starts to demand your energy all at once. But when everything is treated like an emergency, nothing is actually being handled with intention. We move quickly, but not thoughtfully. We react, but we don't always respond. And somewhere in that rush, we lose the ability to step back and ask a simple question. Does this really need me right now? Pausing does not mean you are ignoring something. It means you are choosing to approach it with clarity instead of chaos. It means giving yourself just enough space to separate what is urgent from what only feels urgent, because those are two very different things. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is not respond immediately. It is to take a breath, to let the moment settle, to remind yourself that you are allowed to move through your life at a pace that does not constantly feel like a race. And in that pause, something shifts. the noise quiets, the urgency softens, and you begin to realize that you do not have to treat every moment like it is on fire to prove that you care. Now, my sister, Lynn Baker, reminded us of something that sounds simple but can feel incredibly hard to live out. Removing yourself from negative situations and negative people and not spending a lot of time on social media is essential for good mental health. And when you really sit with that, you realize she's not just talking about distance, she's talking about protection. Because not every environment is meant for your growth. Not every relationship is meant to be maintained at the same level. And not every voice deserves a front row seat in your mind. Yet so many of us stay. We stay in conversations that drain us. We stay connected to people who leave us feeling smaller. We scroll through space that quietly chips away at our peace without even realizing it. Negativity rarely announces itself in obvious ways. Sometimes it shows up as constant criticism. Sometimes it's subtle, like a feeling you can't quite explain after spending time with someone. And social media has a way of amplifying all of it, turning comparison into a daily habit and noise into something we accept as normal. What she is pointing to is the courage to step back, not out of anger, not out of avoidance, but out of awareness, to recognize when something is costing you more than it is giving you, to understand that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's necessary. And that might look like leaving a conversation earlier than you normally would. It might look like setting a boundary with someone you care about. It might even look like just closing the app and choosing to be present in your own life instead of watching everyone else's. Because every moment you remove yourself from what drains you creates a space for something that restores you, more clarity, more energy, more of yourself. And over time, that choice adds up. You begin to notice that your mind feels quieter, your reactions feel steadier, your life feels a little more like your own again. And when I asked this same question of my niece, Mackenzie Baker, her response was something we have discussed in the past, but it's worth repeating daily. And that is, stop comparing yourself to others. Their wins may not be our wins, and their losses are not ours to carry. And sometimes while others are running, we find ourselves needing to stand still in our thoughts for a few moments. That's not failure. That's growth at a pace that is best for us. Now, Lindsay Kelly and Danielle Wells pointed out something many of us feel but don't always admit. Social media and constant noise can drain us in ways we don't even realize. So take time to stop scrolling, unplug, sit with the people around you, be present in your own life. Don't make cameo appearances in everyone else's life on social media while missing your own. Beverly Martell gave us a reset that doesn't cost a thing. Go outside, feel the sun, walk in the woods. Let nature do what it quietly does best. And what makes that so powerful is how easy it is to overlook. We search for complicated solutions, expensive fixes, something new to try. Well, when one of the most steady forms of healing has been right outside the door the entire time. There's something about stepping into nature that gently pulls you out of your own head. The noise softens, the constant thinking slows down just enough for you to catch your breath. You start to notice things you normally rush past. The way the light filters through the trees, the rhythm of your steps, the feeling of air that is not recycled, not rushed, just there. In those moments, nothing is asking anything from you. No expectations, no deadlines, no performance, just presence. Nature does not need you to be anything other than what you are in the moment, and that alone can feel like a release. It also reminds you of something we forget. Not everything is meant to move at the pace we have created. Trees grow without urgency. Seasons change without panic. There is a rhythm to life that exists beyond our schedules. And when you step into it, even briefly, it has a way of resetting you. Sometimes clarity does not come from thinking harder. It comes from stepping away long enough to let your mind settle. A walk outside will not solve everything, but it can shift something. It can give you just enough space to return with a clearer perspective, a steadier breath, and a little more calm that you had before. And for something so simple, that is a pretty remarkable return. Now, Dolores Reeves reminds us that making yourself a priority every day matters. Not once in a while, not when everything else is finished, but every single day. Because when you keep putting yourself at the bottom of the list, you slowly run out of what you need to give. Taking care of yourself is not stepping away from others. It's what allows you to show up fully for them. It's the difference between giving from a place of strength and giving from a place of exhaustion. And over time, those small daily choices to care for yourself do not take away from your life. They strengthen everything in it. And then Kim Hillard gave us one of my favorites. Belly laugh every single day, at least once, even if it's at yourself, especially if it's at yourself. Because laughter has a way of breaking through the heaviness that nothing else quite can. It loosens the grip of stress, interrupts the spiral of overthinking, and reminds you, even if it's just for a moment, that life is still allowed to feel light. We tend to treat laughter like a reaction, something that happens if the conditions are right. But what if it's something we choose, something we make space for on purpose? Because a real, full, from the gut laugh is not just a sound, it's a reset. Your shoulders drop, your breathing changes, the tension you were carrying starts to slip away without asking for permission. And there is something even more powerful about being able to laugh at yourself, not in a harsh or critical way, but in a way that says, I'm human, and that's okay. It softens perfection. It takes the edge off of mistakes. It turns moments that could have weighed you down into something that helps you move forward a little lighter. Now, my friend Gabe Vargas brought it all together with something we all understand. Treat your mental health like your physical health. You wouldn't expect to go to the gym once and be done. It takes consistency. It takes patience. It takes showing up even when you don't feel like it. And last but certainly not least, my friend Lori Williams said something that deserves to echo. I saved this for the end because I felt it was such a powerful reminder for all of us. The stigma of mental health needs to be redefined because asking for help isn't weakness. It's awareness. It's strength. It's the beginning of something better. As I read through all of your words, I kept coming back to one thought. We're not as alone as we think we are. Different lives, different struggles, different stories, and yet we keep arriving at the same truths. Slow down. Be kind to yourself. Ask for help. Set boundaries. Feel what you feel. Take care of the only mind you get to live in. There may not be official rules, but if it were there, I think they would sound a lot like this. And maybe the most powerful part isn't just the advice. It's the reminder we're all figuring this out together. Some of these names you may know and some you may not, but I know all of them. And sharing your message felt like opening a gift I didn't just get to keep, but one I got to pass on to others to enjoy. So I want to thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for caring enough about someone else to share what you've learned, because what we keep discovering is this. We have more in common than we have dividing us. We all wake up to something. We all carry something. And no matter what we're facing, we're all standing under the same sky. Now, I want to turn this back to you. If you had to give someone just one rule for good mental health, what would it be? Not perfect, not polished, but just real. I want to hear it. Share your story. Pass along that piece of wisdom you've learned, because your voice matters more than you think. What you've lived through might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this episode spoke to you, then share this podcast with someone in your life. Be sure to like, follow, and take a moment to leave a review on your favorite podcast player. It helps more people find this message and keeps the community growing, one voice at a time. So just remember, taking care of your mental health isn't something you earn after everything else is done. It's the reason you're able to do everything else in the first place. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of those around you. The Acceptance Project podcast is a production of Bridging Success, LLC. To learn more about the podcast and our work, please visit bridgingsuccess.com. This podcast and its contents are for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. I'm Dr. Bryan Gross, but I'm not a licensed therapist. The topics and opinions shared by me and any guests are our own and should not replace professional or medical advice. If you're seeking mental health support, medical guidance, or help with personal matters, please reach out to a licensed professional who can provide the individual support you need.